Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, and you're listening to Incredible Life Creator Podcast. My guest today is A.C. Burgess. A.C. Burgess was born in Red Bank, New Jersey, where he was raised and educated. As a young man, he apprenticed for Master Craftsmen-Shomo and participated in the performing arts under the direction of Judith Holten and son Ray band leader, Marshall Allen. Upon graduation from high school, he attended the Academy of Culinary Arts in Mays Landing, New Jersey. From there, he traveled from Europe several times, as well as Brazil, Eastern Europe, and eventually the Caribbean. His many college years were spent in New Jersey, the U.S., Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. Welcome to the podcast, AC.
Thank you, Dr. Kimberley. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so let's start out by you telling us a little bit about you, where you started out, and maybe about some of your travels and your adventures.
Okay, sure. I started out in, like you mentioned, Red Bank, New Jersey, from the Jersey Shore in Monmouth County. It's a great little bedroom community that was a little bit divided. There was a west side and the east side. I grew up there, went to high school in a neighboring local high school, and decided I didn't really want to go to college, and ended up working with the Master Craftsmen-Shomo from 7th grade through high school and even a little bit after. It was from there that I went on to culinary school, and I was almost done when I ran out of money, and I didn't want to get another student loan. So I left and packed my knives and moved to Europe, actually. And then I started the travel adventure, basically, you know. Back and forth from London, Amsterdam, I visited Poland, Brazil, and just, you know, was sort of wandering, but always focused on working. I just kept working, basically. And one path led to the next, to the next, to the next.
Yeah. So when you decided to, pick up your knives and leave and go to Europe, what kind of work did you do when you actually got to Europe to keep yourself traveling around?
I worked as a chef. I was a troubleshooter for a company that had restaurants in Chelsea and Notting Hill Gate and Old Brompton Road. So I really fell into a situation where a guy needed someone who could go to 3 different restaurants and fit in with the crew real quick and jump in the kitchen. And the schedule would rotate. And it was great because he didn't like me, I didn't like him. So it was perfect. I was out of his way, and I got to hang out with great people. And that was pretty much it. That's what I was able to do for probably about 6 months. And then I came back home. That was a story in itself. And just kept trying to find ways to live back in the country, in London, unsuccessfully.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
what is it about London that you love?
Oh, it was just, it was fresh, it was clean, it was new, it was international. The languages, the food, the proximity to the continent of Europe, and the bonds that I'd made with friends from different places. It fit like a glove. And it was a vibrant city. It was London.
Wow. So but you ended up back in the United States then?
Yeah.
And then what were you doing here?
What did I come back and do? Worked in restaurants, basically. I did a summer session. I was trying to decide whether or not I wanted to go to school more formally. So I did a 7-week program at Seton Hall Law and Rutgers Law simultaneously to determine whether or not I wanted to be a lawyer, or if kids from New Jersey of color would get into law school. And it was a good experience, but it's not what I wanted. And I went from there to the Virgin Islands.
Oh, okay. So how did you get to the Virgin Islands? Because you have quite a story here of travel.
Yeah, I have a family member who said, you know, you're traveling all around, you can cook. If you go to the Virgin Islands, you'll never run out of restaurants. It fit your lifestyle. And then I made a call to a brother's friend who happened to live on St. John. And I said, hi, I'm Lonnie's brother. Can I sleep on your couch? And they said, sure, just come down. So I bought a ticket and I went there, and I didn't leave for probably 10 years. I stayed.
Oh, wow.
And then, actually, yeah, I kept going back and forth. And I did have to leave at one point because a hurricane came and it was really, really bad. That occurrence shifted my life. That's when the shift really happened with this really bad hurricane. Afterwards, I stayed for months, came back to Red Bank, and decided I would volunteer in like an AmeriCorps program. Remember that program? Right. Well, that was interesting. And I went to my old teacher's classroom and volunteered. And it so happened that one of the teachers had passed away and left a sizable endowment to the school system for anyone who graduated in any year if they would become a teacher. So if I applied, I couldn't be refused. So for the most part, unless I was a knucklehead in the interview, and I got the scholarship. And after I got that scholarship, I said, okay, well, now that I know I have enough money to go to college up into a PhD, I'll just go back to the islands and figure it out for a year. And so I packed my bags with the little letter that says you've got the money, and my time deciding where I wanted to go. And it was while in St. Thomas waiting tables that I met two different people on 2 different days in the same location who happened to be Puerto Rican professionals who suggested going to their island to study. And I took their suggestion. They even suggested the same school because it would leave me bilingual. And I called up the school and said, hey, I got this letter from New Jersey. I'm in St. Thomas, and this is what it says. And the person on the phone said, well, if you get here in the next 48 hours, we'll take you and we won't charge you an application fee.
Wow.
So I called the next day just to be sure. Maybe I'd get someone different on the phone, right? And I didn't. This one was the director of the education department. And I got on the plane and I went with my letter. It's a 19-minute flight from St. Thomas. I flew to the southwest coast of Puerto Rico, very, very country, in a town called San German. And I just showed up. I had my letter and I settled in and went to school there for 4 years and did what I needed to do, and ended up staying an additional 2 years in Puerto Rico teaching. So it was great.
What were you teaching?
I taught, it's really funny. I taught elementary education English at a school called American School that was actually a private school in the city of Bayamon, which was outside of San Juan.
Wow. So tell me what you liked about that.
The students and my principal. My principal was brilliant and hip and strong and stern. It was a family-owned school. The funny part about it was I only heard about the school because I was a counselor in college, and a group of kids I counseled. One little girl said, one day maybe you'll work for my mother. She owns a school.
Oh.
I mean, I guess between August of the year 9/11 occurred and September, I need to make a decision about staying or leaving the Virgin Islands. My mother had just passed, and I was like, okay, do I go back to New Jersey, even though she's not there, or do I take this offer to teach in Puerto Rico? They made me an offer. And a friend of mine said, go to Puerto Rico. So I just went and I stayed, and it was just a great experience. I only left because I wasn't Puerto Rican. I mean, I already lived on an island for 14 years, and I got homesick for the Virgin Islands, basically. But the whole Caribbean student population, they're very smart. It was huge. The school was big to me. It was my first teaching job. It's really hard. Teaching's hard, and your first year is rough. And this woman made me a teacher, the principal. Without a doubt, that, and I love it. And to this day, those students are not so much intact as they are still accessible, and I'm still in touch with them. They were in the 5th grade then. Many of them have graduated law school now.
That is amazing that you've done that long.
I even have one kid that's about to join Aubrey Artworks. Another kid I was her first teacher. She was homeschooled. She's an incredible lawyer in Puerto Rico. I'm in touch still with these people. Isn't that amazing?
That is really amazing. It's really almost unheard of that people stay in touch that long.
They found me on Facebook, and a little kid said, you told me that one day we would stay in touch, and so I've come to find you. And then he got me in touch with the rest of the students. Isn't that amazing?
That is so amazing. And that speaks a lot to your character and how you connected with those kids. I
guess. They were pretty unbelievable.
Yeah.
They were they were these little people who were poets and artists, and they grew up to do amazing things. So.
Wow, that is wonderful. So, so then you taught there, but then when I met you, you were doing Aubrey Artworks, which had nothing to do with teaching. So how did you get into that?
It started with those kids. I was given an assignment to make their work interesting, and it was flat and boring, quite honestly. I was an English teacher. The books, the stories were stale. All of it was stale. The curriculum, in my opinion, just wasn't as creative as they were. But my principal gave me she gave me the leeway to get creative. So I had to bring the stories alive. So I would intermingle art and expression of the story through art. And that made a really big difference in how they understood the work. And then from there, I mean, that really was the beginning of Aubrey Artworks. My whole MO the whole time was to support emerging artists. Students were the emerging artists. And it just grew. I ended up leaving Puerto Rico after my 2-year contract. It was great. Loved it. I'm out of there. I got a job at a very small school, private school that was just starting in St. John. And then I kept using the same technique. And I had a small amount of kids. I had like 19 kids in 5th and 6th combined. So you could be creative with the curriculum. And that really was a catalyst for learning. And my techniques meshed well with certain other teachers, always with the social studies teacher, always with the art teacher. We would bring the stories alive in cultural ways, and then involve the community on a very large scale. I mean, large scale. Like we were studying the Egyptians, we would have a builder come in and recreate pyramid type things with the kids. And then we'd bottle and merchandise different food for the purpose of a class trip where I would take them back to Puerto Rico, where I studied, across the island. I took 19 kids across Puerto Rico for a week. That was crazy. So everything came together and to this point became Aubrey Artworks and has come full circle, without question.
That is so amazing. And that the learning style there is, or the teaching style is so immersive. I mean, those are kind of things that a person who goes through your classroom would never forget. I mean,
they didn't forget. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It was very immersive. But, you know, there are plenty of teachers. How do I say this? You can do that in small settings. You could actually do it in large settings. Later on, I guess in the later years, I moved from St. John to St. Thomas, and I got a teaching job. For 1 year, I took this position in a private school, and they gave me high school kids. That was interesting. And this is where Aubrey Artworks really began. I said, in lieu of a senior year final exam, you're going to do this art project and tell the history of this town through gallery quality work, and it must be gallery quality. And I'll give you the guidelines, and then you figure it out. And if we have any issues that I can't handle or you can't handle, we pull it, and I give you the test like every other kid. And they bit, and they loved it. And then when they drove me crazy, I pulled it. And then they begged to have it back. The end result was that a local senator saw the work that they produced, and then 3 days later, they were in a gallery. And that started Aubrey Artworks.
That is amazing. So every student in your classroom actually graduated having a piece of artwork that was gallery quality. They could put it in a gallery.
Well, the whole impetus was really not even about that. The idea was that there was a group of junior level students whose potential was high, but their grades didn't reflect that. And then I taught advanced placement English and honors English. So I could blend the two grades and use art and culture as the common ground. So if they had to interpret the history of Jews in St. Thomas, all right, which is very, very important. It's the oldest synagogue in the Western Hemisphere. Then they had to do it through photography, tell the story through video of gallery quality. And they could do it. They can do anything. And they did it. And they did it. And Camille Pizarro was from St. Thomas. And just there was a lot of room to get it done. And we got it done.
And you were combining history. So with one subject, you were teaching so many subjects. So
that's why they let me get away with it, because it wasn't in the curriculum. Believe me. Yeah, they didn't invite me back, but it doesn't matter. We had a great year. And those people today, those particular students, many of them are the sponsors of Aubrey Artworks right now. They're successful engineers. We still do great work together. Our relationship's intact. So that's good.
That's wonderful. So with everything happening and a lot of people are staying home, some students are going back to school, some students are deciding to stay home. Um, and I think the whole educational system right now is being just like, it's almost like you're throwing something up and waiting to see how it's going to land, because things are changing so much in our educational system. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think? What direction do you think would be the most beneficial at this point as far as education here in the United States?
I think it's a great time to close the technology divide. And that's the issue. Um, for me, it isn't an issue of balancing economics and education. I wouldn't send my kid back in the classroom right now. I don't have a kid, but that wouldn't happen. Okay. And what's necessary is that the playing field be level in terms of technology, no matter what side of the tracks you live on. That's the issue at hand. Kids just don't have the technology. They just don't. And their home life isn't quite the same. And then there's the issue of the amount of students that go to school that depend on a school lunch for a meal versus the other side of the haves. Okay, so the disparity is gross. It's great. And I don't have the answer. I really don't. I mean, I would like to see kids have the technology they need and enough food on the table. And I live in an inner city right now. I'm living in Baltimore, Maryland, so I see it. It's live and in color here. It's unbelievable. But nobody knows what to do. I just read in a newspaper where the governor of the state of Mississippi is advocating that kids go back to school in certain areas that aren't necessarily the hot spots, but they're all hot spots. So I don't know. I don't really know. I haven't taught I haven't taught in a minute, actually. It's been a couple months. I wouldn't know what to do. I don't know what to say to that one other than I'd like to see, how do I say, the economic gap close. I think that cable companies hold the key to this, sitting down at the table with boards of education. Okay, they're making so much money and are, quite frankly, so greedy that what pittance they throw out, they actually think is generous, but they won't stop making money. Make technology accessible. Let's tackle this one at a time, and there's just a myriad of issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's all I got on that one.
You're right. And I think that's a common answer when I ask anyone that, because no one really knows what to do. And we're just kind of feeling our way through this.
Yeah, we are.
So, yeah. Because my sister's a teacher in Michigan, and most of her kids are at-risk kids. And during this time when they weren't going in the classroom, when she was trying to connect with her kids, the kids didn't respond to her. The parents didn't respond to her. They're not going online. They're not logging in. They're not doing their work. She even went to the extent of actually getting little gifts and food and things like that for all of them, and having someone deliver it to every home of every student to let them know, hey, I'm thinking about you. You know, they got her cell number. Call me, connect with me, whatever. But because of their home life and because it's they're not being told, hey, you got to do well because you want to go to college or you want to do well. They're not getting that, and they don't have a parent that's actually supporting them. So it is like a, even with the teachers doing the best they can, there's going to be a loss here in education if like you said, if we don't do something.
Yeah, the gap is huge. There are definitely losses. I mean, it's been rough. I think I stopped teaching in March. That's when I was in an after-school program. That was very important after-school program, actually. And the kids were all there every day. It was part of their academic life, actually. And it just stopped abruptly. It stopped before you could say goodbye to the kids. Like, it was, don't come back to work because of COVID, and I just wonder, like, what's going on? I have no idea either. No idea. Some kids, I'm sure, are showing up for those online classes, and I imagine there's a large amount that are not showing up, so we'll see what happens. I'm anxious to get back to my kids, without a doubt, to do my part. So, which is, the best I can do is my part, and be present and be there for them. And that's what I would be doing anyway.
Right. And that's all we can all do is just our part in, trying to help. So But you're doing other things to kind of bring the community together, and you're doing that with the Aubrey artworks. So do you want to talk about that and how you're doing that?
Aubrey Artworks was, how do I say, what do we do? I'm a community curator, if I have to have a title. And I seek to bring people together that might not normally be in the same room, let alone showing in the same space. And just something that I thought to do. I was very strategic. I spotted a series of luxury living spaces in Baltimore, and it was great buildings, and they were all owned by the same company. It's like, how do I get in there? And I had a friend who left the hotel I was working at to go open one of these luxury living spaces owned by a different company. Mm-hmm. And I told my concept, and he said, all right, I'll let you launch here. And he did, and it was very successful. And then that set I had it videotaped, actually. I have all my shows recorded. And I had it professionally done by another friend and a student, or actually a young man who's not a student. So now I have collateral to take to the concierge of one of these luxury living spaces and say, hey, I've got these people from here. Let me come into your tenants and appeal to them. You can treat it as an amenity, okay? Our level is high. It costs money in terms of them buying things, but my service is free. So why don't we do it? With that, you have to let me invite members of the public to come in to your private luxury space, and you invite your tenants and residents. And it worked. So the two would come together. And they would just come together for the purpose of what? Enjoying a cocktail while looking at great art and buying art. And they didn't know that the artist among them would be the kid from the west or south side of Baltimore and a woman from Peru. Mm-hmm. Or let's see who else. I have all kinds of people in this thing. A guy from Argentina or a girl from Belarus. You know, these are all artists who would be in the same room with the average guy, and that's it. So it's community, literally. People from different walks of life, from different parts of the state and the world, actually, coming together. That's it. That's it for a limited amount of time. And then we set up a series of these. I said I would ambitiously set out to do 10 shows and brand this company. And I did it. And my mentors were like, 10's an awful lot for something you haven't done one of. I'm like, I got this,
Well, congratulations on that. Yeah, that's amazing.
Tired, but I'm good. Yeah, we did it. And it just got better and better. And you learn along the way and get as much help as you can. And you learn and you capture data. That's the trick. If I had to do it again, I just capture more data. Mm-hmm. You know what your next step is.
Right. So you're just setting up these art galleries, if you will, in the common spaces in these luxury living spaces?
Well, until COVID came and wiped it out.
Yes.
Yeah, like no more of that. No one's gathering anywhere. Those days are done. So in one fell swoop, the teaching job left, the restaurant waiting table job left, and my business stopped as I knew it to be. Everything did. So it required that word everyone's throwing around called pivot. Required that one pivot on a dime. So I did. And that's where we're at. We're adjusting to the new norm of online business, having people directed to an online space. Two of my artists are teachers, so I was able to work with them, and all of us come together to offer online classes. So that would help. And the hope was that the people in those luxury living spaces would be drawn to the classes if they were interested. And so we tried that for about a month or so, and it got a little bit of momentum. It's good. Then we took a break, and then we just restarted again and added a cooking class for kids and teens to that.
Oh,
so
nice.
it's part of it. And then an online gallery at Instagram, and then a website that features merchandise and an expanded gallery. And that's literally where we are now. So we're still feeling our way through this in hopes that when COVID passes, we'll be back out there. Mm-hmm. That's it. But
yeah. And I know when we first talked and you realized that I'm an artist, that you offered to let me put some of my pieces up, which I have not done yet, but I will.
Yes, I like your colors. I like the way your colors blend. I like the way I look at how people see light. Among other things. I'm not a trained artist in that sense, but I got a good feel for what I'm doing. I'm always eager to help people get out there. And your stuff's already in market, so why
Yeah.
not?
But if other people actually wanted to, if they're artists and they actually wanted to put their art out on Aubrey Artworks, how would they do that?
They should just go to aubreyartworks.com, look through the pages, and there's a section that says join us. And you give me a call, and we set up an appointment, and we discuss what you do, and we look at the quality of your work, and we make decisions, and that's pretty much it. We talk about what it is that you want to do, and I tell you what direction I'm going in, and see if there's a connection. And at the very least, there might be someone on the site that you can connect with. So it's certainly not a waste of time. So it's everything to gain, nothing to lose in that sense.
And then someone who actually was looking for art to purchase, would they also go to Aubrey Artworks? Is that where you have the art displayed, or is it all on Instagram? Where would they find the art?
There's a Aubrey Artworks online gallery on Instagram where there has a rotating gallery, art for purchase, and of course on the website at aubreyartworks.com, where we are literally just pegging in the numbers and the mediums offered. There's probably 25 artists there, so there's a lot to choose from. We're setting up whether or not they're prints or photographs, or maybe you need portrait services. All that's there, as well as a merchandise section that's growing every week that includes a recently published coloring book. And the coloring book is from original paintings of Aubrey Artworks artists. And so that can be ordered, which is great. Comes with coloring pencils, the work's original. It's part of a recurring revenue stream to support the artist as well. Once it reaches profit point. And there's pottery for sale. So there's a lot to look for and to find at aubreyartworks.com.
Yes, and I have looked at it, and there is a lot to be found, and it's very interesting, and some really fun pieces, some very, well, I like the colors, so
there's a lot of color there. The hottest thing on the site now, and that's the newest, would be the pottery, the coloring book, and classes. We have 2-level classes, a 4 o'clock class with Jasmine Manning. She's an incredible art teacher, and it's done by Zoom online. So we'll have adults from California and a kid from the Virgin Islands and someone's neighbor, and they'll meet there. They'll just keep coming back, which is cool. And then the second class is Josh Brooks, which launches this tomorrow. He has not an older set, but a more advanced art group. We're hoping to draw. It's a slow incline. And then in the morning at 11 o'clock, I do a cooking class for kids and teens with my great niece who's 13 years old.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, that sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, we're trying to package it as a camp just to get some momentum now. And my hope is that in fall, once people decide that their kid's not going back to school yet, okay, or they're combined going to school with some online work, that they would consider Aubrey Artworks as a creative arts hour on Thursdays.
Yeah, that would be great. And also, for the same reason, a lot of kids will be staying home, maybe 11, 12-year-olds and up. And all of a sudden, I've heard so many people say, I have cooked more than I ever have in my life, even adults. So now some of these kids are going to actually have to be preparing some of their own meals because, mom or dad might have to work all day and won't have time to do that. So
that's the message I'm telling them. I'm saying, look, teach them a valuable skill, the skill of cooking and preparing their meals so that you don't have to. That's the message. I'm not sure if they're getting it yet, but they'll get it. They'll get it in about 4 weeks.
Right.
Because that's coming any minute now, as a matter of fact. I'll still be there for them. Join late if you need to. Start them early. There's really not very little hot foods. You have to worry about them burning their hand off. And it's a preparation of an organic beverage, a nice snack or lunch, and a dessert. And that's it. It's just fun with a bunch of banter between me and a 13-year-old kid, Sydney, who's pretty amazing. And the idea is that if you can't, it's interactive. You don't have the ingredients and you can't cook then jot it down. Just write it down so you can start your own book and have your recipes there. And that's the idea.
That sounds really wonderful. So now you've been through a lot in your life, including being a cancer survivor. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. Briefly. in 2016, I guess, I was diagnosed with an aggressive prostate cancer while living in the Virgin Islands. And it was like the perfect storm where my job had just ended because it was a political post where I worked at the behest of the governor who just finished his 2 terms. So that had just ended. The house I was trying to buy, the mortgage company folded. And so it's like, okay, I lost the job. Now I'm renting the house that I'm trying to buy. And I just got diagnosed with cancer. So all in the same matter of months. And yeah, it was I took it in stride and just kept moving and just through it with a lot of great people. And fortunately, no physical pain. That's a good thing. And great support from my family and friends. And it brought me back to America. That's why, or back to the States proper. So that's why I'm here now, basically. I finished up the treatments. I did what I needed to do. And I'm rebuilt and feeling great.
Awesome. The fact that you're back here, I met you through Monica, and she is your
through Vidaya. You met me through Vidaya, actually.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Right.
Through Vidaya. That's right. Through Vidaya. Yeah.
Who's my niece?
Right.
Yeah, who's actually my niece. And she lived in Ellicott City, so my treatments were in Maryland, and then moved to Philadelphia. And after those treatments, I lived with her in Ellicott City, and then branched out to the big city of Baltimore all by myself. Like a and in fact, I'll see her today. I see her often. So she was an part. Her support, her family support, and a system that she created called bee printing. And bee printing can actually walk you through various stages to get what you want. If you're willing to explore and go in. It's a system. It's a great system. I ended up being trained in this system and offering support to other cancer survivors. So it's the bee printing methodology. It's actually a technology that combined with a methodology really helped to get me on my feet.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. And I did have her on the podcast. So if people want to know more about that, they can listen to the one with Rabbit. Tell me her name again. How do you say
Vidaya.
Vidaya. I don't know why I have a hard time saying it. Vidaya. Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, they can go there. And now you're doing some other things too. You're involved in a company that has CBD oil. It's a technology company. What are you doing with that, and how is it helping you in your life?
Well, it's interesting. I started with a CBD oil maybe 2 years ago, and the idea is that it's CBD is introduced to your body to support your endocannabinoid system, and this system gives you balance. This particular company, unlike the other ones or many of them out there, has a unique technology in terms of absorption. So I don't think it works unless it can get absorbed into your cells. Their absorption technology is what sets them apart. I jumped on it after a friend of mine who's a leader in CBD oils highly recommended it. She's a cancer survivor and a nurse, as a matter of fact. And she's been through it all. She's been through the gamut. She knows what she's looking for and looking at. I trust her. And I did my own homework. And I said, this company actually has they're doing some great things. This looks good. I liked it. I know that CBD works for me. There's a million of them out there. I wanted something that was, how do I say that, had an edge to it. And I think that this is called Z-Lis, Z-I-L-I-S. This one I believe does. So I'm always looking to balance my system. It has CBD and something called CBG, and that works more with your flora and your gut system. So the two combined and its absorption rate is what's attracted to me. And what I do is I'm pretty much a spokesperson and a representative for this company. And I love it, I just started. I just bought into the company yesterday, as a matter of fact. I'll be going to pick up my new products tomorrow or Friday in New Jersey. So I've got a lot of things on the burner, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Yeah. And so when you take the CBD oil, what do you notice that's different?
Well, what happened to me was that I had issues jumping out of bed in the morning. Well, of course, I'm 56 years old, so jumping out might not be the smartest thing, but bending down and picking things back up. That was a real slow start after 39 radiation treatments. And you want to stave off the effects of radiation around your waist and your hips. It's going to come and get you at some point, they say. I've watched it happen to members of my family. The CBD oil gave me the mobility to start to exercise and then enter 5K races. And I did that. So I know what it can do. And you just feel better. Don't you want to feel better?
Oh, definitely.
I want to feel better.
That on and off, and I just never could make a decision on it because I've heard, well, first of all, there's so many companies.
Yes.
Second of all, I'm like, I've heard so many different things people say it does, and I'm like, what does it really do? What does it really do?
I tell you, it is funny because it can be confusing. There are so many on the market. I look for ones that are endorsed by people I believe in. Like I like Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz gives you an idea of which CBD will work and how it works, because you want to know how it works and what it's doing. It's not some magic elixir that isn't science-based, and it's important to me that it's science-based.
Yeah.
So once I learned how to take it, I took it for probably 2 months. I did it for 2 months, and then I stopped. It got very expensive with other companies. So I stopped. I was like, I can't even afford to sell that product. You gotta stay in. It was the pyramid scheme, the whole bit. Not interested. All I'm trying to do is get some CBD oil. And I stopped, and my body still feels good from it. Then I discovered my friend Karen Appy started using Zalise, and I was like, you know what? Let me see what she has. Something told me to just call her last week out of the blue. And I called her, and then I just got tied back into it. And I see all the stuff that it does. And it's, it's going to be a fun ride. So I'm hoping to bring all my friends along on this ride with me.
Great. Yeah. So if people wanted to actually get that from you, is there a place like on the website where they would contact you, or do you have an email or some place where they could?
I'd like them to just give me a call. They can call me directly at 443-589-4425. 443-589-4425. Or go online and go to Zalise, www.zilis, and then you can go /AC Burgess, and I'll come up somewhere.
Okay.
Okay. I'm
Great.
easy to
So
find.
they can find you.
Googleable, if that's a word. And I'd be more than glad to turn them onto it.
All right. So what for you gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
At this point, bringing products to market, sitting still, meditating, exercising, knowing I'm getting on a plane 7 days to go back to the Virgin Islands for a minute. It's everything that I'm doing. It's creating, how do I say that? Having the discipline to develop the acumen I need to take care of myself. Isn't that enough?
That's plenty. Yes.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and for sharing all your adventures and wonderful things. And, if anybody wants to buy art, send in art, learn to cook, get some CBD oil, this is the man here.
That's the deal. So, my niece calls me the people's uncle. So I'm not ready for office. Isn't that funny? So yeah, it was a pleasure being here. I'm glad that you invited me. This felt really good. No one ever asked me questions like this, so it's nice to share. And I appreciate the work that you do.
Yeah. So I have one last question before we get off today. What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Oh, my best advice on living an incredible, amazing life. Tell yourself that that's what you want to do. I would say start there. Sit still for a moment and listen. Listen to the silence and the messages that come through. And surround yourself with people that are there to help lift you up. And do the same with gratitude. It's really that simple. I think you can get what you want and what you need through breathing. Sitting still will do that. Sitting still will do that. Okay? You listen to how you breathe. The messages will come. You'll know what to do. You ask. Source will answer you. Allow and be open to receiving it, and make it a daily practice. That's all I got.
All right. We'll talk to you again soon, AC.
All right. Thank you. It was an absolute pleasure.